Hi, good morning civil engineering students and professionals. I am hereby starting a video lecture series on designing and detailing of industrial structure, a very important flourishing part or branch of civil engineering. Before going to the core topic, industrial building design, let me tell you what are the different types of projects a civil engineer gets for designing. The first type is most common, that is residential buildings, wherein we design a small houses or bungalows or block of apartments. We call it societies in common term, or even a skyscraper. Second type of projects which a civil engineer gets for design is commercial projects. They include hospitals, educational institutes, hotel resorts, or even shopping malls, something like this. Third type of projects is industrial projects, where we get to design industrial plants, industrial buildings and factories, etc. And the fourth type of projects is infrastructure projects, which we usually get from government. Government is our client, and we design under infrastructure projects. Sorry, we design bridges, railway stations, then airports, underground drainage system, culverts, dams, jetties, harbors. So all these are infrastructure projects. So again, going back to our core topic, which is industrial project. Now amongst industrial projects also there are different types of industrial projects. First is oil and gas refinery or petrochemical projects. Now in this oil and gas refinery projects, the raw material is crude oil. So it includes exploration for crude oil. So find where crude oil is available. It can be underground or it can be at the bed of the sea, under the sea. After exploration, extraction of crude oil, that kind of project also happens. So we extract crude oil. There are oil wells, oil fields. Oil is extracted from bottom of the earth or bottom of the sea, like we have Bombay High project, and this oil is later on brought to the refineries. So it is transportation project of the oil. So we require to design pipe supporting system for that. After exploration, extraction, transportation, the oil and gas industry also has the most important big projects, which are processing and refining of the oils. So here the crude oil undergoes various processes, refining processes, and it is converted into n number of very useful products. From crude oil we get diesel, petrol, LPG, the cooking gas, the solvents, the aromatics, wax, so many products. So it is very useful and very high profile. They call it Kala Dhan, black gold, crude oil, because it gives rise to lot of useful products. After refining process, the oil and gas industry also has the refined products are also transported and marketed to different places. So for that transportation of the final product also civil engineering is required for designing the supports, for storage of those material. Lot of tankages will be there, and we require to design the foundations for the tanks. We also require to design supports for the transportation. If transportation is via pipes, we require to support the pipelines. So these are typically oil and gas refinery petrochemical project, and it gives lot of currency to the nation. So it is very important project for the nation. Second type of industrial projects is chemical projects. So basically, suppose chemicals are produced in it. Suppose from sulfur, sulfuric acid is produced or something like that. So we require to design the buildings and structures which are involved in this chemical process, processing of the chemicals. third type of projects a civil engineer gets for designing is metallurgical project. Metallurgy means minerals, like there will be bauxite ore in some area part of the part of India, and from bauxite ore this ore is extracted, it is brought on conveyors to the plant, then it is processed, and from bauxite a useful material or useful product is suppose alumina. Alumina is produced from bauxite. So all the process in this, supporting of the conveyors, designing of the process buildings, designing of the storage yards, designing of the carriers or transportation, so all these things are designed by civil engineer. After oil and gas, petrochemical projects, chemical projects, metallurgical projects, there are pharma projects also available in the industrial design types. Amongst the industrial design, in pharma project, as the name suggests, the pharmaceuticals are produced. The pharmaceutical industry where medicines are produced, they require civil engineers throughout the process to design their buildings, to design their structures, to design their storage yards, to design their conveyors. And after pharma, there is one more industry, which is food industry. So food, large production of food material like sauce, jams, or even bread, ice creams, all these require industry. The raw material will be some food like flour, or it can be tomatoes, and then they are processed, and from that process a useful product like ketchup or ice cream, from milk, all these things are produced. Now all this process will be designed by process engineers. The equipments for all these process will be designed by mechanical engineers. Electrical engineers will supply electricity for the process, and civil will design the equipments, foundations, then they will design the buildings or structures for where the process is happening. They will design the conveyor supports where the products are being conveyed. So all this is a food and food industry. After food industry, there is one more major industrial projects which we get is energy and power projects. Now we have energy is required, electricity is required basically, and it is generated by a lot of processes, either nuclear energy, or it can be hydro energy, it can be wind energy, it can be solar energy. So for all this energy industry also, civil design is involved for designing the process buildings, designing the conveyor system or supports to the equipments. All this, they are very major industrial project. So basically these are all the industrial projects. Now amongst all this, again, of course any engineer, civil engineer can design any of these industrial projects, but our main topic, again going back to the main topic, we are going to majorly discuss in this video series design of industrial buildings, especially in oil and gas refinery or petrochemical plants. Now what exactly happens in the oil and gas industry? As I said, it is broken down into subparts, that is exploration of crude oil, find where it is, then extraction of crude oil, like there will be oil fields, oil wells, we require to provide structures and supports for there. Then after that, transportation, storage, so we require to transport, we require to provide supports to the transporting system, that is pipes, mostly pipe racks and pipe sleepers and pipe supports. Fourth is the storage of the raw materials and useful materials for the process. Then we require to provide supports for these storage yards, tank farms and equipment supports. And then the process buildings where the actual conversion, refining process happens and crude oil is converted into final product. I have covered this earlier also. And then again conveyance or the supports for the transportation of these final products and storage of final products, equipment supports, all these come under this. Now There are various types of projects involved in this oil and gas refinery project. First is it will be just a research type of projects. Any industry, mostly any client like oil and ONGC or Oil India or worldwide it can be Exxon Mobil or any such clients. They first do the research. If they find the location where the oil is there, they do the research. And for the research project also some extent civil engineering is required to give inputs. Now next type of project is concept or basic engineering project. Before the actual project is done, to find out what are going to be the expenses involved for a client floats a concept or basic engineering project, in which a basic drawings or basic list of equipments and materials is done, and we are supposed to do the basic engineering, civil engineering. It is not an exact design. Rough design is done and rough quantities are worked out, and rough estimation, the costing of the project is given to the client. So this type of concept projects also come to us. By this rough estimate, client decides whether to put the project over there or which year they should put the project, whether they should they also do basic engineering for different locations. Like suppose ONGC wants to put a refinery, they explore the crude oil somewhere in some part of Gujarat, and they do the concept project for 2-3 towns around near to that explored area. So for those locations, which of the location is more feasible and suitable for putting the projects, that decision they take using our basic engineering estimates. After basic engineering or concept project, we also get field type of projects, front end engineering projects, which is also little, it is in between the basic engineering and detail engineering. In field engineering projects also we do the estimates, we find the rough cost, we find the rough quantities, roughly design the various structures and supports in the plant, and then we do some feed basic drawings, feed drawings, not exactly detail engineering drawings. The reinforcement etc. details may not be there in the drawings, but we will have to do some basic drawings, rough drawings, and to give an idea to the client that what is going to be the sizing of the various members in a structure and all. Based on these feed drawings, we and the rough calculations, we do the estimate, find the BOQ, and from the quantities we find the costing or estimate of the project. This is submitted to client. So it gives little more precise idea than the basic engineering project to the client, and then it helps them to decide or finalize the project date and project location, whether to put a project or not, etc., etc. So this is after this research, concept or basic engineering, and third feed engineering. Fourth type of projects civil engineer gets is detail engineering project. So in the detail engineering, now the client like ONGC or Oil India or worldwide, as I said, any refinery client, oil and gas industry client, they have now finalized the location, finalized the product quantity, how many tons per annum they are going to produce. Once they finalize the different types of useful products they are going to take out from one industry, one refinery, the project comes to us for the final detail engineering. Now detail engineering, we get inputs from different departments, different disciplines like process, electrical, instrumentation, piping, mechanical. We get the loading data and we actually do the detail engineering, designing of the structures or equipment supports or the conveyance system. We actually do the design calculation and do the drawing in detail, showing the dimensions and also reinforcement detail in it. And these detail engineering project, these detail design and drawing is then sent to the site. For basic engineering and feed engineering project, whatever are the outputs, whatever are the sketches or drawings, the construction is not happening at site. They are just to give idea to the client. But after detail engineering project, whatever is the output, the design calculations and the drawings, with those drawings, the construction actually happens at the site. And after construction, now for after detail engineering projects, there is one more type of projects a civil engineer may get in this petrochemical industrial projects, that is PMC project, project management consultancy. You can be a PMC, you can be a connector or a intermediate consultancy in between the client and the detail engineering consultancy. So the drawings and outputs or the designing process of a detail engineering consultancy can be checked by a PMC consultancy, PMC company. So they are basically checkers, overviewers, project management consultants for this detail engineering project. And that is also a flourishing industry as far as civil engineering is concerned. And after all this, after the research, after secondly the basic engineering, or thirdly the feed engineering projects, or fourthly detail engineering, and fifthly PMC projects, after this the actual commissioning of the plant happens and we start getting the products. So these are all the stages in the industrial project of a petrochemical refinery. Now, what are the different types of structures involved in the petrochemical refinery projects? What are the different materials of construction involved? So, first and most basic, that is RCC. There are concrete structures. More concrete structures will be underground substructure like foundations, or they can be above ground structures like buildings. Second type of material of construction is naturally structural steel. There will be structural steel structures in the refineries. Steel structures will generally never be underground. Mostly they will be above ground only. They can be the technological structures, they can be pipe racks, they can be pipe supports or conveyor supports, or the roof trusses, etc., etc. So all these are the typical examples of the steel structure. The third type of material of construction will be brick masonry. Very rarely stone masonry also, if stone is amply available in the location of the site. So brick and stone masonry structures will be like compound walls. They can be retaining walls or dike walls. They can be used as a rubble soling, etc., or under the roads, few layers under the roads. So all these will be the masonry structures. The fourth material of construction, major one of the material of construction, is PCC, plain cement concrete. It doesn't have reinforcement in it. So PCC structures or PCC will be used basically as a pad under the foundations or under the grade slabs to give a level surface on the excavated area in the excavated pits. On these PCC pads or PCC thin layer of around 50 to maximum 100 mm thick, the grade slab or the footings will sit. It provides basically a level surface, level clean surface for concrete structure to sit on it. Other few materials of construction involved in the refineries are bitumen or tar for roads, for damp proof cores, for sometimes waterproofing also. Wood is also involved, basically sometimes for frames or doors and windows, frames of doors and windows, etc. Very rarely in refineries, of course, the wooden doors and windows are used. Mostly aluminum or mild steel doors are used because oil and gas refinery is highly hazardous as far as fire is concerned. So fireproof material is preferred. Very rarely wood will be used. Of course, wood is the major material used during the construction process in the form of shoring, strutting or formwork. Wood is used there. Also nowadays wood is being replaced by metallic formwork. But so these are basically the materials of constructions which are used in the material in the refinery projects. Now, what are the different structures involved in the refinery projects, typical refinery plants? The structures will be first the process buildings or plant buildings. Now, what, as the name suggests, in the process building, the actual process happens. Actual process of converting a raw material into final product. That process happens. They can be reactors, they can be columns, distillation columns, they can be towers or something like that, crackers. All these are in the technological structure. All these are process buildings. We have to take loading from different disciplines, the layout from piping, etc., and then accurately design the structures for different load combinations. These are the plant buildings. Then there are non-plant buildings also in a typical industrial refinery project. Industrial refinery project is a big plot plan. It's a big complex. It's not only a standalone building. It is a big complex having hundreds of buildings or hundreds of structures in it. Rather, instead of using building, students and junior engineers, you will have to start using the word structures for as far as you are working in refinery projects. So plant buildings are, as I explained. After that, non-plant buildings. The non-plant buildings are the buildings where the process, actual process does not happen, but they are the supporting buildings to the process buildings. The non-plant buildings can be small canteens or administrative building. It can be parking lots. It can be workshop. It can be meeting room, or it can be restroom, it can be changing room. Especially in pharma and projects and food industry, you require to change, the workers required to change because a lot of hygienity is required. So changing rooms and are there. So these are all non-plant buildings. Now after plant and non-plant building, third type of buildings or structures in refineries is storage yards. As the name suggests, in the storage yards, either the raw material or intermediate material or the final product is stored, and we require to provide structures or foundations for to design structures and foundations in these storage yards. The storage yards will include tank farms. Tank farm is a large complex of tankages where the material is stored. We require to provide foundation for the tank farms. There are pipes going from one tank to other tank, and then we require to provide supports for the pipes. There will be pumps, there will be small platforms, there will be dike wall, there will be paved area or unpaved area. So basically civil will require to design all these facilities in the tank farm. There will be silos for the product storage and silo supporting structure, the staircases and silo platforms, and supports, foundations for that will be designed by civil. There will be bins, there will be vessels. All these are the storage yard. Even the spherical vessels, they are also required to be designed. Supports for them required to be designed by civil engineer. So plant buildings, non-plant buildings, storage yard, and then there are utility buildings where the utilities required for happening of the process are stationed in it. The utility building can be boiler house, where boiler is there. You will have to provide supports for the boilers and other equipments. Utilities can be nitrogen house, it can be so many other products. I'll come in detail as we go ahead with our course. After utilities, there will be other underground or miscellaneous facilities to be provided. It will be roads and drainage, then it will be compound wall and gate house, etc., etc., etc. So all these things come under the miscellaneous buildings. So this comprise of our main parts of the first video on design of industrial structure, uh, especially in the petrochemical plants. And after this I will again load another video series of videos about the further lectures. Thank you.